Have you ever stopped to think about the invisible web that connects our entire world? Every morning, millions of us wake up and grab our phones before our feet even touch the floor. We scroll through news feeds, check our emails, maybe watch a quick video before heading to work. Later, we join video calls with teammates halfway around the globe, stream our favorite shows at night, and perhaps order a few things online before calling it a day. All of that, every single click, every message sent, every byte of data streamed relies on one silent, omnipresent force, the internet. It's the digital bloodstream of modern civilization, a network so vast and complex that it feels almost like magic. But have you ever truly wondered who built it? Not the websites you visit or the apps on your phone, but the actual physical infrastructure itself, the routers, the switches, the digital veins that carry information across oceans and continents in the blink of an eye. Behind this incredible feat of engineering stands one company, a quiet giant you've probably heard of but may not fully appreciate: Cisco Systems. This isn't a technical story about lines of code or complex circuit boards. This is a story about love, rebellion, and the unlikely birth of a $500 billion giant that quietly constructed the foundations of the modern internet. Our story begins in the early 1980s at Stanford University, the beating heart of what would soon become Silicon Valley. This is where Leonard Bozak, a quiet and brilliant computer engineer, Sandy Lerner, a bold and charismatic social scientist, worked in separate departments. Despite their different fields and personalities, they fell in love. But their love story faced a uniquely digital problem. The computer networks in their respective departments couldn't communicate with each other. They used different protocols, different systems. It was like trying to send a text message to someone on another planet. Back then, the internet as we know it didn't exist. There were only isolated networks, digital islands that couldn't share information. Frustrated by this digital divide, they decided to solve the problem themselves. Leonard and Sandy set out to build a bridge between their two worlds. Their solution was a small, unassuming box they called a router. This device was revolutionary. It could translate the language of one network into the language of another, allowing them to speak to each other for the first time. They were driven by a simple, personal desire to send each other emails across campus. But in solving this one small problem, they had inadvertently created the key to connecting all the world's isolated networks into one single global web. They had laid the foundation for the internet itself. In 1984, fueled by their invention and an unwavering belief in its potential, they decided to start a company. With no money and a whole lot of faith, they took a massive risk. They mortgaged their house, maxed out their credit cards, and poured everything they had into their new venture. They named it Cisco, a name shortened from San Francisco, inspired by the iconic Golden Gate Bridge that connects to land masses, just as their technology connected to networks. Their living room became their laboratory, their factory, and their corporate headquarters, all in one. Their very first product was far from polished. It was just a simple metal box, hand-painted blue. But what it lacked in aesthetics, it more than made up for in function. It worked like magic. This little blue box could connect computer networks that had never been able to communicate before. Word of their invention began to spread like wildfire across universities and research centers, the early adopters of network technology. It turned out that the problem Leonard and Sandy had faced wasn't unique to them. Everyone wanted what Cisco had built. The world was ready for a connected future. But dreams and revolutionary technology alone don't pay the bills. The couple was running out of money and desperately needed investors to scale their operation. This is when Don Valentine of Sequoia Capital, a legendary venture capitalist who had already helped fund giants like Apple and Atari, entered the picture. Valentine saw the immense potential in Cisco's technology, but he had one major condition. He would agree to invest, but only if the founders gave up control of their company and brought in a professional CEO to run the business. This was a bitter pill to swallow. Leonard and Sandy had poured their hearts, their souls, and their entire life savings into Cisco. It was their baby. Giving up control felt like a betrayal of their original vision. But they faced a difficult choice: retain control and risk the company's collapse, or cede control and give it a chance to survive and thrive. Ultimately, their desire for the company to succeed outweighed their personal attachment, and they reluctantly agreed to Valentine's terms. Under new professional leadership, Cisco didn't just grow, exploded. The timing was perfect. As the internet revolution of the 1990s began to take off, Cisco was positioned as the essential backbone of this new digital world. Every university, every corporation, and every government agency that wanted to get online needed routers and switches to connect their networks. And they all turned to one company, Cisco. The demand was insatiable. By 1990, the company went public, and its stock soared. By the year 2000, at the peak of the dot-com boom, Cisco became the most valuable company on earth, with a market capitalization of more than $500 billion, surpassing even behemoths like Microsoft. From a humble startup born in a living room, fueled by love and a simple need to communicate, Cisco had climbed to the very pinnacle of the corporate world. It had become the empire behind the global internet. But as the old saying goes, the higher you climb, the harder you fall. The new millennium brought with it a harsh and sudden reality check. When the dot-com bubble burst in 2000, the consequences for Cisco were catastrophic. Its primary customers, countless internet startups and telecommunication companies, collapsed virtually overnight. The flood of orders that had fueled Cisco's meteoric rise dried up in an instant. Warehouses overflowed with billions of dollars worth of unsold hardware. In a single brutal year, Cisco lost over $400 billion in market value, one of the largest financial collapses in corporate history. The company was on the brink of disaster. CEO John Chambers had to face this new reality head-on. In a move Hansen for a CEO, he publicly admitted the company's mistakes, apologized to his employees for the coming hardships, and began the arduous process of rebuilding the company from the ground up. Cisco didn't die in the ashes of the dot-com bust, evolved. It learned a painful but valuable lesson about adaptation. As the internet matured and stabilized, Cisco recognized that its future couldn't solely depend on hardware. The company began a strategic shift, expanding its focus to include software, integrated services, and the burgeoning field of cybersecurity. They didn't just innovate from within. They started acquiring promising startups that aligned with their new vision. They bought WebEx to dominate the world of online meetings, Scientific Atlanta to enter the cable and TV technology space, and Duo Security to become a major player in cybersecurity. They even coined a new slogan that perfectly captured this new philosophy, the human network. It was a profound realization. At its core, Cisco wasn't just in the business of connecting machines. It was, and always had been, in the business of connecting people. This new direction re-energized the company and set it on a path of sustainable, long-term growth. Today, Cisco is no longer the flashy hot startup it once was. It has settled into the role of a quiet, indispensable giant to cornerstone of the digital age, with a market value of nearly $300 billion. Its routers, switches, and software now power the very fabric of our connected society. From the massive data centers of Google and Amazon to the critical communication networks of NASA missions. So the next time you send an email, stream a video, or join a virtual call, take a moment to think about the journey that data is taking. Somewhere in between your device and its destination, there's almost certainly a piece of Cisco technology, silently and reliably making it all possible. They didn't just help build the internet. In a very real sense, they helped build the world we live in today.